Thank you so much for speaking with us, Priyanka. Priyanka Chigurupati is Executive Director at Granules India, and we thank you for your time. Let's start with your recap of the quarter. Revenues down 1.6%. Slightly better than the Bloomberg estimates, though. EBITDA was down 8.1%. Margins also have slid. What has been the key reasons, and does it come down to what we saw at the Gagillapur facility?
Good morning. Nice to be here. So I think the drop in revenue, if you just look at Q1 and even the quarters before, it's been very marginal. It hasn't been significant. But yes, we did take a voluntary pause in September, October, and even after that, November and December. The focus has been to make sure that the FDA commitments have been met. So yes, there has been a drop in sales. But in terms of EBITDA, if you look at, say, Q1, which is more of a quarter that we should compare with relative to Q2, the EBITDA was down, was flat and not really down. If you just remove the one-time exceptional activities, which includes air freight, some penalties that we had because of lack of supply for a short period, and also because of the consultancy fees that we had to pay. But apart from that, I'd say it's been pretty flat.
Okay, I'll just one follow-up, Agam, before you come in, please. So 4 to 5 product launches, which were now expected in the second half, does that get delayed because of what we saw at Gagillapur? Does that get shifted to another facility?
In the second half of FY25, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, they will be delayed. But that said, that's only not 4 to 5 products. We still have about 4 to 5 launches from GPI, the US facility, that are still going to happen in Q4. In fact, we've already received approval for about 4 out of the 5, and the 5th one we're expecting very, very shortly. So the GPI products will be launched and will be scaled up as planned, but GIL products, there will be a delay.
Priyanka, again, when it comes to the OAI classification for the Gagillapur facility, how confident are you that it will not eventually lead to an import alert? What are the remediations that you guys are already taking place at the moment?
So the focus has been completely on this OAI, even prior to receiving the OAI, so the 483 observations that we've received. So ever since, I'm sure even CMD mentioned it in the last call, that we've hired external consultants outside of doing our own internal remediation plans, external consultants for each of the observations. And as we speak, there is not only a retrospective review, but also a prospective review happening on site, where we will have consultants on site helping us remediate a lot of the 483s. But I would say that about 86 to 90% of the CAPAs that we had implemented have been closed, with the last one closing in Q1. So we are fairly confident that this OAI will lead to more of a positive outlook for us going forward. And we're also in the talks with the FDA to request an in-person meeting with them to make sure that a re-inspection is expedited at this point.
Can I just a follow-up on the point about the 4 or 5 launches which now get delayed? You mentioned, Priyanka, that they get delayed. Is there a sense of the timeline? And is there a plan B? Are there other launches in the pipeline to cover this up?
Well, I would say that, like I mentioned, the 4 to 5 launches that we have happening from GPI are the big ones. Yeah. We have a few launches that we scheduled for Europe and the rest of the regions, albeit a little bit smaller than the US. But these 4 to 5 launches that are happening from the GGP facility, or were supposed to happen from the GGP facility, those were for the rest of the, let's say, calendar year, not necessarily the fiscal year, right? So they will be maybe moved 2 quarters. That's the estimate right now. And even the GIL products, typically when we launch the products, it takes us about 5 quarters to scale up. So yes, there will of course be a loss of revenue until we get approvals for these couple of products, but it won't be as significant as it would have been otherwise. So we do have the GPI launches and also the rest of the world launches that will make up for it. And right now, to be very honest, we are still working on capacities. So we're expecting a lot of these launches to happen from GGP, but we're also moving them to our GLS side and even some to our GPI side. So hopefully, if something happens to Gagillapur facility, which we don't think would happen, we can continue to launch them in from the other side as well.
Well, you said there would be some loss in revenue, which won't be too much.
Yeah.
What have you penciled in for Q4 and for the financial year?
No, Q4, it's not significant at all because we would just have received approval for those products.
Okay.
And actually, at Q4, the only loss of revenue would be for one product. That's it, nothing more than that. But Q1, Q2 onwards, we're expecting the other approvals, which might be delayed a little bit.
Can you tell us about the current pricing environment in your API business? Are you looking at recovery in prices at the moment?
The prices, I'll just say for our biggest products, they have kind of found a new bottom right now, which is higher than the earlier bottom. So we expect this to go up going further. So as it keeps going further, we'll probably do some API sales from, I'm talking primarily about the two biggest products. The other sales keep happening. But, if you see the increase in our, the API, PFI and finished dosages, a lot of our APIs, we use them for captive consumption. So you'll see the finished dosages going up, and a lot of the APIs come from our internal sites as well. So, API, I wouldn't look at it necessarily as its own unit. I would look at it in combination of PFIs and finished dosages.
Okay, and taking all your launches into consideration over, the quarter gone by, the upcoming quarter, what can we expect in terms of your top line growth in FY26?
I don't want to comment on the top line growth, but there certainly will be a growth. But I think the focus is more on bottom line than it is on top line.
Can we at least expect your revenue growth to be better than what we've seen in FY25?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Also moving on, when we consider Granules participating in the GLP-1 market, given its growing significance in the pharmaceuticals landscape, can you tell us a little bit more about your moves and your plans here?
I think we should wait for a little bit to potentially announce that. Nothing has been finalized, but we're looking at a few options. But the current growth trajectory that we have has been kind of entrenched into our existing products and oncology, and then the later areas of focus. As we keep going forward, we'll certainly announce it.
Okay, and I believe that about 3/4 of your revenues comes from finished dosages. What's the outlook for this particular segment here on?
Well, if you've seen our last couple of quarters, we've been significantly growing in the finished dosage category, but we also want to grow in other regions, which is a focus. Of course, US will always be a primary area of focus for us, but Europe, which is primarily finished dosage driven, Latin America, which is PFI and finished dosage driven, but primarily PFIs for the immediate future, and then Southeast Asia and MENA, which is again PFI to API driven. So you'll see an increase in absolute numbers from all the regions, but in terms of percentages, you'll see a difference marginally. We'll be focusing a lot more on the rest of the regions as well. So PFIs will grow in absolute numbers. And as we keep launching products in Europe, the finished dosages will grow as well. But again, finished dosage will always be the #1 growth driver of the company. But if you look at absolute numbers, you'll see a significant growth in PFIs as well.
Okay, Priyanka, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for speaking to us here on NDTV Profit. Wish you the best for the future.
Thank you.